Well, it's the first weekend of the LCS Summer Split with coverage brought to you by Alienware. I'm joined right now by Licorice to talk about FlyQuest and how things have shaped up during the offseason. So, first off, there's been a lot of roster moves, a lot of crazy things that have happened this the split, but FlyQuest kind of quiet. So, how was the offseason for you and the team?
I would say the off season was pretty good for all of us. We took like kind of a long break. Everyone did their own thing. Palafox actually ended up boot camping in Korea, even with all the restrictions and everything. It's a little, I would say, crazy, but you
How
could
do you
also
make
say
it work?
dedicated, or
Yeah.
and like everyone kind of just did what they thought would be best for them. And we're coming back this time. We're in the office the whole split and trying to do our best.
How did he manage to make that work? I guess he just did quarantine and just went through all the crazy things that you have to do.
They did like the quarantine hotel, and then he had like some sort of accommodation set up for himself as well. And yeah, did a boot camp.
Well, very impressive. Okay. Well, uh, where's your mind at on FlyQuest? Like, I don't know if you guys were able to reset and like maybe you had some great scrims. Maybe you guys talked a lot about the things that held you back in spring. So, what has the team done to prepare for summer?
I mean, a lot of prep for teams is always just based on the meta. It's like figuring out the meta, making sure you have the right picks, the right like champion pools, just like the right pick man because it's like half the game. And then practicing those up. And I would say that apart from all that, our focus has just been mainly on like playing more as a team and making sure that like I mean, at least the way I see it is that I don't care how dumb the play is that we're gonna go for it as long as everyone does it together. Um, and if you like really disagree, then you should also say that, and then we can do something else together, you know. But that's kind of where my focus is at, like early mid late game, just make sure that we're all on the same page.
Well, I remember we spoke during spring, and you had mentioned specifically how you were trying to rise up to be more of a leader for this team. I don't know if you like put any extra thought or effort into that, or if that was like a big thing for you. Because the last interview I did with you was a very somber one. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think it was at the end of the split, and you guys had gotten eliminated. So I'm just kind of curious, like for you personally, how have you kind of reset and focused, and made any personal adjustments you need to be able to sort of conquer going forward into summer?
Yeah, I think that most of the leadership that I'm like that best suits me is going to be the out of game, like during bot review, in between games, like talking to players about the game, and that is like greatly helped by being in person. So like already I've felt a huge difference in like being able to like have more access to everybody basically, and like that I can also like physically control the review computer because I'm like there, and like if I want to go over something, then I can go over it, like show certain parts of the map or like the fight or whatever. So I've been trying to step up a lot in the out of game area. And I think when it comes to stage games so far, I mean, we're on game two. I think I'm just like everyone else, just trying to get on stage and do my best that day and see how it goes.
So it sounds like you guys are now using the facility.
Yes, we are.
Okay, cool. So how has that been? Because I think well, the funny thing is, I don't think you guys even got. Well, I don't think FlyQuest last year got a chance to really use it. But they like built it, announced it, it was getting ready to go, and then I don't even know if they had a chance to use it much beforehand. So how's it been? Switching into the new facility. What can you tell us about the facility?
It's been really good. It's like I mean, it's just like an office building. It's like nothing super fancy. It's not like some $50 million cryptocurrency mega mansion.
Yeah.
Um, but it's nice. I like it. I really like being able to. I mean, the biggest thing about an office for me is being able to go home at the end of the day. I think that's like super important for me, at least, is to like have kind of an off switch of like, okay, like now I'm at home and I can relax. And if I want to play solo queue, then maybe I'll play some solo queue. But like I have the option to just like lie down on the couch or just like lie down on the bed and like veg out, kind of.
Yeah.
Um, but like in general, just being in the same physical space as my teammates, I think it's super important, especially for more of a fresh team.
Yeah. Well, okay. So how? Obviously, you guys unfortunately lost today's game, but what do you think? You said a lot of the preparation for teams getting into games is just going to be getting a read on the meta. So, what do you
Mm-hmm.
think of the meta right now, and what do you think of your read on it?
I actually think our read on the meta is pretty good. I think today didn't have a lot to do with draft issues. It had more to do with absolutely everything in game going wrong, which does happen sometimes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it happened to us today.
Unlucky
So
games, yeah.
gonna go home, get a good night's sleep, and try to make some things go right tomorrow. It's
Gotcha.
my current
Okay.
plan.
Well, what do you think of the meta in general? Because obviously now we've got all these new champions coming in, very different setup. So what do you think of the meta and the champions that we're seeing in the league? Because a lot of people seem to have a lot of strong opinions, especially about Viego.
Yeah, Viego is like the most interesting one because I think it's like some teams don't really play it at all. Some teams would think it's like first pick worthy. And there's like everything in between. So like that, it's kind of the weirdest pick because it's like it's like a Katarina on steroids. You know, it's like if someone dies in the team fight, then Viego might be able to just like pentakill your whole team. And like
Right.
no one, when you're like on a stage match, you're like, yeah, you know, like maybe I don't want to play against that. Like one person makes one mistake and then like the whole game's
Everything
over.
goes away. Yeah. Yeah.
But that is kind of how the like all the champions work nowadays anyways. I think like everything is super explosive. There's like tons of damage in the game and like you see teams like hitting barons right at 20 minutes just to force a fight because they can just like one shot everybody. So I think Diego is kind of more of the same if you look at it that way, and remains to be seen exactly how strong it is. Although I think it's quite strong.
Okay. There's been a whole bunch of stuff that has happened in the past couple of weeks that are about outside the game, sort of these broader discussions. So one is we had Double F do this big video. He posted about the LCS stuff and the ping. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that.
I did not.
Okay, we're gonna move on to number 2. Mithy said that he would like these public replays. He did like some tweets and video with me about it. Did you catch any of that conversation?
No.
Okay, we're gonna move on to number 3. The Players Association is now revitalized. It's got a new executive director. Have you been paying attention to any of that stuff?
Vaguely.
Vaguely. Do you have any
Yeah.
vague
I know,
opinions on the Players Association as it stands and the new stuff?
I know
Are you
the new
optimistic yet,
chairman.
or do you still not believe? I'm kind of curious.
I'm I don't think I really believe yet. I think
Okay.
I will like things get sent to me as a player, you know, I'll vote on them. But I am a little skeptical about seeing a lot of movement.
Where
On
does the
like
skepticism? Do you think it's just that the players can't move, or do you think the leadership? I mean, what makes you kind of skeptical about them?
I mean I just think it's really hard to organize this many players and like when practice is so important and like there's like no limit to how much each player can practice and you're kind of like for me my season is like I'm either practicing or I'm relaxing and like those are like the only two activities that happen on like pretty much any day.
Yeah.
um Having to organize like 50 of us to go decide anything together is like I think it's just super hard. So I I think that's where most of my skepticism comes from.
I have heard a rumor that they made it so that you guys have makeup as an optional thing. I don't know if you've heard anything about this. Did you have to do makeup today?
It was optional today.
It was optional. Did you know that that was
Hmm.
from the Players Association based off
I
what
did know that was from the Players
Okay.
Association.
Does that help you feel a little bit like they're going to do more for you? I mean, obviously it is the smallest thing ever, right? But I know a lot of players, whether or not I agree with it or not, make a really big deal about the makeup stuff. So the fact that they were able to get that changed, does that give you any more faith in them?
Um, Kind of. I mean, it's like not really about me not believing in them. It's just that I think the things that matter to me are like doing well on stage and practicing well and resting well. And I don't think that the Players Association is going to affect any of those three.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm just like focused on myself and doing my job well. And like, if they manage to like miraculously pull off a 6 ping or 8 ping server, I would be like over the moon. But I'm not like holding my breath for it.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Well, I think that's all the major discussion points that are happening in the community around players right now. So I think I can just sort of ask you, what are your predictions for the team for this split? What are you hoping for FlyQuest?
Um, I think right now it's basically just like keep getting better, fix our mistakes, fix what's in front of us, and then hopefully have like a good playoffs run at the end of the split. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of the gist of it. Like I don't with the schedules carrying over, I'm like not super optimistic that we're gonna like be able to come into playoffs with a high seed, even if we like are performing as like one of the top teams. But you just have to be the best team in playoffs to win. That's kind of how it works. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where my side is.
Anything you'd like to say to any of the fans?
Um, the usual. I don't know. Thanks for the support. Hope you keep cheering us on, and might be a bit of a bumpy ride. So we'll do it together.
Well, looking forward to seeing how FlyQuest goes on the bumpy ride ahead of them over the course of summer. Hopefully, it starts to smooth out for you towards the end. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things LCS right here on my YouTube channel. Oh my gosh, it's so good to be back in these games, watching them, enjoying them, interviewing people after them. It's fantastic. Speaking of good in games, Alienware, in partnership with Team Liquid, has now officially launched Good in Gaming, which is an initiative in order to provide opportunities and programs to people who seek to grow, learn, network, and compete in the esports industry. They've got all sorts of cool stuff like tournaments, mentorships, scholarships, all this kind of stuff. It's really cool to see what they're doing. You can head on over to alienware.com/goodingaming. I'd recommend you do it because it's just neat to see this program that they've been able to build out to support the next generation of esports industry folks. Because let's be clear, I'm getting kind of tired. I don't know how much longer I can do this. It's a pain in the butt. You guys don't subscribe. No, I'm just kidding. But if you do want to subscribe, that would be cool. Either way, I'm so happy to be back making this content. And shout out to Alienware for Good in Gaming. Awesome to see.